Yo, 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 welcome back to another Three Amigos podcast episode. Just Chris and Anthony. Today, no Frankie because he doesn't own a PS5. So he doesn't get to experience Spider-Man 2, the greatest PlayStation game ever made, better than Starfield. Not that Frankie would know because he doesn't have a PlayStation 5, so he can't play it. But today we're here to talk about Spider-Man 2 and a little bit of an overview, sort of our initial impressions of the game. There was a lot of hype coming into this game's release, and it sold really well. I think we all knew that was probably going to be the case. It got really great reviews, and we've both played it. Anthony's platinumed the game. He fucking no-lifed it in like a weekend. Super impressive. I'm about 80% of the way through the story. So yeah, we're gonna just hop in. Anthony, hit me with some of your immediate first impressions of the game. Could be anything from graphics to gameplay, story, any of that stuff.
Um, well, I will say the platinum for me was probably one of the easiest platinums I ever gotten.
Really?
Yeah, it really wasn't that hard to get.
I mean, the platinum for Miles was pretty easy, I would say. And
there
fun.
was
Like not didn't actually feel like too much of a grind.
there was one in there in the miles when I was like looking at it and I was like, I'm not doing that. I forgot what it was, but I think the game had a really strong opening and it definitely fluctuates between massive, crazy things to more chilled out things, which is expected. You can't have full on action throughout the whole thing, but there is a lot of relatability to the characters. You relate to some of the characters and what they're going through. Graphics. I didn't get to use photo mode as much as I wanted to because I wanted to, record gameplay for my review for the first run
Mhm.
through. But I still feel that graphically they could do a little bit better um, for various different areas. I still think graphically it doesn't compete with it's not tied with Horizon Forbidden West, but it's close. Um, but other than the graphics, the performance was great. It's a very smooth game, very fast traveling. Like you run around the city and swing in flight suit or whatever you want to call it. Story was great. I have some concerns for the for an inevitable third game, but we'll get to that at some point. But yeah, it was a fun experience. Like, yeah, I've no lifed it for a weekend, so I can get the review out as fast as possible. My review is doing pretty decent right now. I do have some complaints with some of the side activities and unlockables, and we'll get into that in the video. But yeah, overall positive, very, very positive. Fastest selling PlayStation game in history.
Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
and then a side note, your whole intro was something I would say normally about Xbox and Starfield, and so this must be like an opposite day or something. Speaking of, since we're recording on Halloween, happy Halloween to the viewers. This may be uploaded a day or so after, but happy Halloween to everybody there.
Yeah, to all who celebrate. I actually saw a guy at the gym today, one of the employees, decked out in a full Miguel O'Hara 2099 suit,
Damn, that's
which
dope.
looked pretty sick. I don't know where the hell he got it, but I was like, damn, that's like that looks like pretty legit.
I went to
You know.
my doctor's appointment this morning, and two of the staff were dressed as Cruella and one of the Dalmatians. And I was like, oh, that's cute. But I was like, I couldn't get a costume I mean, I had to go to work today to the office today. And I was like, I don't really have the time to wear something. I don't want to wear anything anyway. Like it was just, it was a lot.
I love seeing people's costumes on Halloween. As much as I'm not like a dress up person, I do appreciate the effort that people put into their costumes. Yeah. My first impressions of Spider-Man 2, pretty great. I think that um it's funny that you like the way the story started. I thought like the actual like start of the game, like the very first mission was awesome. And then it sort of took like a not a dip in quality. It was just kind of slow. Um for like it took a little while for things to pick up. I think that that's kind of tricky because we all know that the black suit and Venom are in the game. So we're kind of just like, get me to that part. And I will
Right.
say, once you get to that part, it really picks up. The story gets insane. The missions are awesome. There's a ton of awesome boss fights. Um, which I guess would be like my first big like takeaway positive note from this game. I think the boss fights are awesome. I think all of them are great. Um, I wasn't someone who really cared about the addition of a health bar that much. There were some boss fights that I felt like it played into it, and then other ones where I wasn't really paying attention to it. Um, I mean, the boss fight with the lizard, I think, is like one of the greatest boss fights I've ever played. That's definitely going down as a pretty epic. Um, I also thought there's a really good pacing of set pieces in this game. Like in the first game and then Miles Morales, it felt like there were probably like one or two really big set piece moments. In the first game for sure, the mission where you break into the raft, and you have to fight like all of Spider-Man's villains at once. That was pretty
Hmm.
amazing. And then in Miles Morales, the sequence on the bridge was pretty epic. In Spider-Man 2, I'm like 80% of the way through the story. There's already been like six epic set piece moments. And they've all been awesome, which is super enjoyable. I think the gameplay is pretty much improved in every aspect from the first two games, which, you love to see that they're building on what they've already like. The combat was already pretty good, gameplay was already pretty good. Um, the one issue that they were going to run into is that Miles felt very overpowered compared to Peter. And then in this game, they sort of remedied that to the point where Peter, at a certain point, feels sort of insanely overpowered compared to Miles. But I think it still balances out really well. Yeah, I think the game's gorgeous. To me, this is what you're looking for from graphics in a crazy large open world. I didn't even notice till I opened up the map that there were parts of New York City that I hadn't even like gone through yet, which is crazy because you feel like you're seeing most of the city, but there's a lot to see and do in this game, which is great. Um, yeah, so far it's everything that I would have wanted. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, it's like this is I mean, just imagine. I mean, luckily we don't know any Spider-Man fans that don't own a PlayStation 5. But like if we did, could you imagine being a Spider-Man fan and not playing this game? It's
I mean,
crazy.
we know somebody who is like that,
Do we?
unfortunately.
No, I don't think so. Can't think about
But what's funny was when I did my review, I think at the end of like my first paragraph, I say this is it's basically or this game is amazing, spectacular, and the ultimate Spider-Man experience, pun intended.
it.
Um, and I was thinking back at like the possibility of playing some older Spider-Man games, like for example, Ultimate Spider-Man, right? If I
Hmm.
do an emulator, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to play those anymore because this one is the far superior Spider-Man game in terms of the city, the map you can explore, the combat, the graphics. And so you look at these previous games and some people might have the nostalgia that they want to play the older games. And I'm like, well, some older games that I would want to play, they already either had a remake or they get in a remake. Other Spider-Man games, I
Hmm.
don't really want to play anymore. Even Web of Shadows, as great as it was, I don't want to play that anymore because I have this one. And I have three great Spider-Man games on PlayStation. The PS4, the Miles, and this one. So I think that I even made a point in my video about like if you have a PS5 and you did not buy the game or you don't plan on buying it, that's kind of an interesting mindset to have because I understand not everyone is interested in every exclusive, but you should not have the right to say no to this game if you have a PS5. It should be you must buy this if you have a PS5. You don't buy it, you have to they take your PS5 away. You lose your PS5
Yeah,
for
just
good.
sell it. Just sell your PS5. Like at that
Yeah.
point, really. It's funny you mention like past Spider-Man games because I did have that same feeling of like a lot of the times with nostalgia, like something that you're thinking back on is probably not as good as you remember it, which is just a funny way that nostalgia tends to work. As much as I loved Web of Shadows, I remember after about 50% of that game, the city's completely destroyed, and it's not nearly as fun swinging around in like a post-apocalyptic New York City as it was when the city was like, had life. Um, and that game was a lot of fun, but it also had a shitload of screen tearing, and the graphics were kind
Hmm.
of not great. Um, so I think this game almost makes it hard to go back to the original Insomniac Spider-Man, because there are a lot of things in that game. Like as much as I enjoyed it, I feel like the dynamic of this game featuring Peter and Miles works so well that going back to a game that features Peter on his own and Miles just doing like running around, don't get spotted side missions. It's almost like you have to remind someone like, hey, you don't play as Miles in the first one, right? Like it's just Peter. He's got like four gadgets. He doesn't have the spider arms unless you get the Iron Spider like suit unlock or
Hmm.
whatever, or like ability or something. Um, yeah, this is about as good as it gets. I do want to say, this was almost going to be a criticism of mine until I gave it a little time because I texted you and I was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, man, I don't know about these Mary Jane missions. I'm nervous. I thought we were done. I thought we were done with Mary Jane. Um, they fixed it. They totally fixed the Mary Jane missions. They don't suck nearly as much as they did in the first game. I won't give anything away as to why. They're a lot better. But clearly, I almost respect them for taking the feedback of almost universally everyone saying, get these missions out of the game. They're awful. And them not taking the missions away, but improving them to make it sort of enjoyable to play as Mary Jane. I still would prefer that they weren't in the game at all, but the way that they're
Yeah.
implemented makes sense in the story, and the changes they make to those missions actually do make them kind of fun. Oh, they're almost fun, which I think is pretty impressive from Insomniac's standpoint. Yeah.
You mentioned you also had other, I guess, is it disappointments or criticisms or something, some negatives that you had?
Yeah, some minor stuff. Because it's all minor, because overall the game is awesome. I have a ton of fun. I've definitely reached that point now where it's like all I want to do is play Spider-Man.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of my complaints are very minor, so I almost don't even want to classify them as complaints. But it is worth, noting like, hey, the game's not perfect. Like, it's not like a 10 out of 10 on like every single, scale imaginable. My first issue was the skill ability menu setup in this game is just not good, in my opinion. I think that they have three skill trees.
Hmm.
They then have the web gadgets. Then they have the abilities. Then they have like a tech upgrade. I don't know, there's like four different areas that you need to like upgrade Peter and
Yeah,
Miles.
you have the tech ones, and then you have the like the health upgrades, the traversal upgrades, and then you have their individual skill tree for their special attacks. And then there was the one tree that lets you choose which abilities you want to give them, which I do have a problem with the abilities thing. But I can only really speak on Miles's part to avoid some minor spoilers, but I had some issues with that part of the customization.
Well, here's my main complaint. Is like if you played Rift Apart, if anyone played Rift Apart, they've already done this. They've done the dual
Mhm.
character video game before. So Insomniac, I mean different team obviously. So they might not have all the same assets, but it's already been done by the company. In Rift Apart, they shared the skill tree
Mhm.
completely. Anything that you got for Ratchet also went to whatever girl Ratchet's name was. I already forgot. But it made the upgrades way easier to comprehend because you're not balancing like, should I upgrade this character? Should I upgrade this character? I don't really know what I'm going to play as either of them. So it kind of makes it tough to know who you should be upgrading more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like, in addition to the skill trees feeling like either give out more skill points or I don't know. To me, it would have been like give out double the skill points. Every time you go up a level, give out 2 skill points instead of one, so that you get to upgrade Peter once and Miles once, so that one character isn't falling behind. Specifically, because you're playing through a single player game, you don't know when you're going to play as each character. So to make you sort of blindly upgrade them, just to me, from like a I don't know, from like a gameplay standpoint, didn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's a set of upgrades like we were talking about with the health and the traversal. You get to a certain point on those upgrades, and they say you have to choose one of these
Yeah, one of two of those
abilities.
options. Yeah.
Why? Like for the traversal one, there's a point where you have to choose, does your like web leap or whatever, when you like bounce off a ledge or something,
Mm-hmm.
that can be set to maximum, or you have to choose if you want the slingshot and the jump set to maximum. Why not both? I don't
Right.
was when I'm going through this menu and I'm like, these are different mechanics. Like, is there a reason that when I upgrade, I can't just unlock both of them to use at the same time? Because you're actively like subtracting from one mechanic,
Right.
which, considering the fact that it's traversal, doesn't make sense to me. Like, it almost makes sense if it's like a combat or a health based mechanic, because there should be some sort of like, I don't know, like you have to balance it out somehow. But when it's a traversal mechanic, I'm like, why am I choosing between slingshot maximum distance and like bouncing off the ledge maximum distance? Those are different things. So some of this stuff to me just didn't make sense. And I don't want to have like the Spider-Man colored glasses on where this game is perfect and it has no flaws, because
Right.
from that standpoint, I just wasn't quite, even the Spider-Man fanboy in me could not understand how a team that already made a game that featured dual protagonists was suddenly changing some of those mechanics to me in a bad way, in a way that like I love swinging around New York City, bouncing off buildings, slingshotting myself halfway across the city. To make me choose between how those abilities function is a negative, because it's just about fun. The traversal is just about fun. Why you would want someone to have to choose which fun mechanic they're going to use, to me, just it didn't make sense. It just also felt like there's way too many upgrade menus. There's like 4 different sets of upgrade menus with branching paths, and I couldn't also this is another very small thing, but there are certain abilities that take 2 skill points to upgrade and other ones that take 1 skill point to upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be no reasoning behind why some of them are 2. Like,
Right.
there are tons of valuable 1 point upgrades. In some cases, I'm like, isn't this is one of the best upgrades in the game? Why is this only 1 skill point? And then I'm being locked out of another skill tree because has a 2 skill point upgrade that's not that good. I don't know. So some of this stuff I can't really figure out if this would have been end of the, let's say they delayed this game by 6 months, if this would have been end of the production cycle tweaks that they make, or if this was decided upon very early. It doesn't, to me, take away from the fun of the game at all. But there is definitely like it's almost a little bit of a downside anytime I had to go into the menu and be like, okay, wait, I have 2 skill points, I have 85 city tokens, I have 6 hero tokens, I have 1,000 rare parts, I have 45 uh tech token. Like I'm just like, holy shit, man, just make it all one currency. Like, why are there are like five different forms of currency in
Right.
this game? And it felt a little almost like overdone. It was like you could have, in terms of like suit upgrades, you could have just done all city tokens. That's fine. I don't quite understand why there needed to be hero tokens and rare parts and tech parts, and it felt yeah, just a bit overdone. But these are not things that take away from how amazing the game is. These are just things as I was playing that I was like, yeah, this is kind of weirdly put together. I don't know. Did you run into any of these issues that I might have pointed out?
My my main issues is what people are trying to say about the game on the internet that's not 100% true. And my other issue is some of the things they did differently here. Like, I'm a little upset about some of the alternate costumes that didn't make a return, as well
Mm,
as some wish list ones that didn't make it in the game. Um, I don't want to give too much away in terms of that. Like, did you unlock most of the suits yet or not yet?
I think I'm missing like maybe eight or five or eight from each character.
Because there's one that I was but no, let me not say nothing about that. But I know Miles has the new blue abilities. Um, I think they suck compared to the yellow ones. I think the old ones were better. Um,
Oh, you know
the other
what?
is
Can I mention something on that really quickly?
yeah.
Because you just unlocked another thing that I remembered. Okay. I was coming off of playing Final Fantasy 16,
Mm-hmm,
which in that game you get these different abilities. You literally hit L2 to switch between them. Like to
mm-hmm,
switch between the wind powers and the fire powers, you hit L2. That's it. That's the only thing you have to do. So when Miles gets these like blue electricity powers, I was
mm-hmm.
like, why can't I just swap to the blue ones? Like,
Right.
why do I have to trade out the Venom Punch for the shock electroshock thing?
Yeah.
And then I just can't use the Venom Punch until I go into the menus and swap it out again. I when I was playing Final Fantasy 16, totally different games. I get it, but it added a lot to the combat to be using your fire powers. And then you could use your fire special moves, swap right over to the wind ones. Those are already charged up. So it's not like dual charge for each one. They're not
Mm-hmm.
connected. They're totally different. So when you swap, you have all your wind powers ready to go. I it the recharging of abilities, huge step back from what they had in the first
Yeah,
game.
because I still don't know how to do it. Like I'll fight and I'm like, am I not charged yet? Why am I still waiting for this to come in? Or you'll get an upgrade where it says, oh, you get to use a bonus gadget without charge. And I'm like, okay, which gadget am I gonna use before the time runs out and I lose the charge? So yeah, I agree with that part. With the charging up of the powers in the gadget, because that could have been better.
It seems like it just
Um,
could have been faster. Like
yeah.
I think also because a lot of those abilities, like the original ones that Miles has, the Venom Punch to me was always my favorite. Um, they're not that good though. I don't think the moves are strong enough where they deserve to be essentially like nerfed to the point where you
Hmm.
can kind of use them once per battle and sometimes not at all for some of those like smaller side objectives. If they're not charged up, I've noticed like it's not like they auto charge them for you when the mission starts. You just don't have them. And I
Right.
don't it's never quite explained how long they take to charge. I'm sure I could sit there with a timer and just wait. But it's too long. However long it takes, it's long enough where to me, that is an area that it did start to take away from the combat, where like you put these new abilities in the game, I want to use them, but then it turns out I can only use it once, and then I have to wait like 2 or 3 minutes, which in a game with combat as fast as this slows you down, and you just
And you're,
kind of like punching, the same 4 hit combo, waiting for
mhm.
the move to recharge, or it doesn't, and then the fight's over.
So this might make you
Which
upset. You have
yeah,
to use the blue ones for a trophy.
for a trophy.
Yeah, you have to kill or defeat a certain number of enemies with the blue powers to get a trophy.
Yeah. I mean, that look, I love
Is
playing the game, so that's
that was the
fine. But
longest one for me to get.
the mechanics behind this, like the abilities recharging in the Miles game, and I can't even remember the original Spider-Man, but in the Miles game, I'm pretty sure they were focus attacks.
Hmm.
And the focus bar charged up way faster. I don't know. Again, this is certain things that I'm not quite sure if some of this was stuff that was always the plan, was to essentially nerf some of these abilities, because Miles was OP. He was completely OP in his own game. His powers were going to make him way more fun to play as than Peter. Um, but it does kind of feel like they nerfed like everyone's abilities just because Miles got OP. Then they were like, all right, well, now that they're both in the same game, we have to nerf everybody. Um,
You
yeah.
know, you know what I missed from the first game? There's an upgrade where each finisher bar can do two finishers per bar. So you would get six finishers per fight if you had it
Oh,
maxed out.
that's right.
And that was only in the first one. I missed that one so much because I was like, I would kick so much ass with that upgrade. And now we don't have it.
Yeah, it also made taking down the brutes a lot more fun, because some of those guys
Yeah.
got really annoying. Um, and it takes so long to build up the focus meter. Also, and this is not necessarily like a complaint with this game in particular, but I'm not always a huge fan of devs putting new features into their game and then sort of constructing things in a way that force you to use the feature even if you don't really like it, or are not quite connecting with it that much. For me in this game, it's the parry system. I I just don't really think it's that useful. But
Yeah.
it is imperative if you want to recharge your special moves faster. And there's literally an upgrade where it's like a successful parry or whatever, you get a free gadget, or your focus meter charges faster, or your special
Hmm.
moves recharge a little faster. And I'm like, okay, so you put a new feature into the game, which I sort of have to use if I want some of the other new features to function a little bit more successfully. And I'm all for putting new shit in the games, but when you sort of pigeonhole the player base into needing to use those features,
Hmm.
um, yeah, nah, I don't know. The parry system,
It's
I
definitely a hard
just
one to
didn't,
land.
huh?
It's definitely a hard system to like um how you say it to perfect because I would use it as much as I can and I'm either a bit too early or a bit too late and I'm like I can't get the timing right. um
Yeah. I mean, and I understand like wanting to have sort of like a good risk reward
mhm.
system in your game, but the parries to me just I I don't know, to have a dodge, to have a perfect dodge and a parry, just yeah, I don't know in this game if you needed a parry system. He's Spider-Man. He,
Right.
he's just running around punching people. Like, do we need a parry system?
So
Yeah.
here's what I don't like that's been happening. A lot of people are trying to point out all the glitches and bugs in the game, but these are things that they are actively trying to force the game to do. And
Right.
I'm like, this isn't like Starfield where it's gonna have bugs and glitches, not Bethesda where they have bugs and glitches. It's I've noticed maybe two or three bugs in my gameplay. Only one of them had me restart close the game and reopen it, but the rest just had me do a restart checkpoint. Same thing with Alan Wake. I'm experiencing very minor bugs in Alan Wake. It's just a thing of the gaming of today. There's bugs and glitches, but
Yeah.
there's people who are actively trying to break the game to prove some bullshit point. I also hear people, both internet and even my roommate, mention this that they don't like the wingsuit in the sense of how to steer with the wingsuit. And my problem with people complaining about that is number one, there is an upgrade that you can unlock that makes steering easier. Number two, it's not meant to be used as your main traversal skill. for the rest of the game. It's just a inclusion to help you get to the city quicker. And I made this point in my review. You're supposed to combine everything you can with your traversal. Web swinging, web zip, wingsuit, diving, the wall running, the slingshot thing. You know, when you do the when you go like on next to the wall and you press circle in a direction and you know shoot yourself to the side.
Hmm.
So you got to use everything you can to get to the city. It's not just to glide throughout the whole city and call it a day. Like, no, it's not going to replace your swinging. It's not Batman where you can keep diving to get your momentum. There's everything you have to do. So that to me is more like you are trying to complain that the wingsuit is not going to get you to the city on its own. Well, no shit, that's not the point of it. It's just an addition. You have to perfect your traversal. And after 2 games, if you played the first one in Miles, if you can't swing to the city properly, you shouldn't even be playing the game no more. Because
Right,
you
you're
had
just
two
bad at the
full
game.
games. Yeah. Like yeah, two
I don't
full
want to get on
games.
people who are like complaining about the wingsuit, but honestly, if you're bad at using the wingsuit, you might just be bad at the game.
Yeah.
It's like really easy. I
Especially
mean,
like
and
if you
look,
notice.
I owe Insomniac an apology because I thought the wingsuit was kind of a garbage inclusion. I was like, what's the point?
Mhm.
I just want to swing through the city. The wingsuit's awesome. I was wrong. It's amazing. It is such a welcome addition to the traversal. Like you said, it's optional.
Yeah.
They don't make you I think there's like very rare instances where you need to know how to use the wingsuit to reach a high up point, but
Hmm.
it's not the sort of thing where like if you can't use the wingsuit, you're just gonna die in every single mission. Like it makes the traversal more fun if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then don't use the wingsuit. But
Plus, some of the costumes, the wingsuit will change a little bit to match the costume.
yeah,
Just like
it's
Peter's robot arms, like some costumes will change to match it, and it's. I mean, it's cool. It's it's a cool thing. The only other
a
complaint I
really
have
impressive inclusion, gotta say.
with the mainly the spider bot trying to get the spider bots, that was a pain in the ass to collect. There were some of them that was like I'm in the area and I just can't find it, and it was just a pain in the ass to get, but it does pay off when you do get them all. That's all I'm gonna
Oh,
say about that.
okay. Okay.
um oh, and also another thing that did come out of this game that's kind of funny is, remember, the whole Bully Maguire thing. Now we're
Yes.
getting Bully Lowenthal with what he's doing in the game. So that's those are videos out there now. Is it Lowenthal? That's how you say it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bully Lowenthal. So that's something. I did have concerns. My brother had concerns, just something really quickly for the end. In terms of what villains we would see in the third game because of the ones they already used and what they're gonna do next. And then we can't really talk about this until I'd rather wait till you beat the game to talk more about that, the future of the games.
Yeah.
But I did hear I watched an Angry Joe video, don't ask me why, but when he found out that it's confirmed that Wolverine exists in this universe, he was upset. He thought it was stupid. And I'm like, what the fuck's your problem? Like,
He was it's their universe. What?
yeah, like he thinks it was stupid. I'm like, bro, like
Oh my God. Angry Joe is such a fucking clown, man. Yeah, that's his brand though. He has to shit on stuff. That's his
yeah,
whole brand. It doesn't work if
yeah,
he's
true.
Happy Joe. That's just that doesn't pay the bills. Angry Joe pays the
It's,
bills.
it's like we don't want a happy meal. We
Um
want someone angry.
yeah, I did want to say because we spent a decent amount of time talking about some of the not so great things about the game. This game is awesome. I think the story is incredible, and I'm not even done with it yet. I think this is one of, if not, I mean, me personally, this is my favorite iteration of Venom ever. This version of Venom looks amazing, sounds amazing. The sound design in this game is it's so good that I noticed. Like usually sound design in video games, it's not really something I'm like paying much attention to, but the sounds in this game are just they're so good. All of the acting is fantastic. The guy who plays Harry, I think he's really good. It feels like everybody totally upped their game from the original. Mary Jane's great, especially playing like a much more like emotional role. And her and Peter farther along in their relationship.
Mhm.
Peter is great. The new Tom Holland looking Peter, I've gotten used to it. I still think the other guy
I'm not
had a
used to
better
it.
look for where this game ends up going, but whatever. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, so they got to pick someone that looks like him, and he's good. He does a really good job. Yeah, this game is so much fun. It's gonna be almost impossible to go back to the original Spider-Man. Maybe for like nostalgia at some point I will. But I feel like the second I boot that game up and I open the menu and I'm like, oh shit, Peter only has like three abilities in this game.
And you can't
This
wingsuit.
is kind of bare bones.
Yeah.
That first
But
Mary
if
Jane
you
mission is gonna want to uninstall for sure. Uh,
but like if you have a PS5 and you haven't played the game, go out and get it. Or if you want to feel lucky, go watch my review on my channel, and I am doing a second giveaway to give another copy away to a fan. So go to YouTube, Anthony Milan, watch my review, leave a comment. I have the, what you call it. I have the directions in the description. Get a free copy. And Frankie, if you buy a PS5, I will buy you the game. All right, bro. I'm dead ass. I will buy you the game if you buy PS5.
yeah, this is a great game. Insomniac, uh, they don't miss. I really don't know how else to say it anymore. They're on that level of developers that they don't make bad games. They just don't make bad games. Everything they make is a banger. Um, I mean, 3 for 3 on Spider-Man, Ratchet Rift Apart was fantastic. They're gonna pump out Wolverine somehow in like the next 1 or 2 years. This
Please
is
be
one of
next
the
year. Please be
GOAT
next year. Please
game
be next year.
developers. Like, yeah, I mean, this is we are
Yeah.
all just we're blessed to be in the timeline of Insomniac putting out Spider-Man games.
Actually, I can't wait till you beat it because there's more I want to talk about with you after you beat the game and the future of Spider-Man.
All right. Well, I guess that means we'll be doing a third podcast episode
We'll do a spoiler
about this
episode.
game. Yeah, a full spoiler episode. That'll be fun once I finally finish beating the game. This was for all you non-spoiler people out there, since I'm not done. Uh, we didn't want to give too much away. But yeah, play the game if you haven't. This is definitely a system seller. If you don't have a PS5, go out and buy one. Luckily, we don't know anybody who doesn't own a PS5. Because could you imagine not owning a PS5 and calling yourself Spider-Man? That'd be crazy.
One of the biggest
Yeah.
Spider-Man fans out there. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, it's you and me tied for number one, and then
Yeah.
that's everybody. That's all the Spider-Man fans that I know. Well, any last
Yeah.
words, Anthony? Take us home.
Well, like you said, gotta get the game, you gotta play it, you gotta know how it feels to play as Spider-Man, and there's two of them. Double the spider, double the fun. But that's our episode for today. Thank you guys for watching. Happy Halloween. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.